It's a Tuesday, August 31st, and the time for your Barbados Today morning news update. We begin with more concerns over the number of children being diagnosed with COVID-19. This time it's coming from the Barbados Secondary Teachers Union and the Barbados Union of Teachers, with one organization raising fears of members re-entering the classroom when the new school year begins on September 20th. BSTU President Mary Redmond pointed to the increased risk to members who will interact with children 18 years and under, an age group that appears to be more affected by the highly infectious Delta variant.
Of course, they're concerned about the fact that there is the Delta variant now, and with Delta has come a serious rise in infection among the 18 years and under age group. Of course, that is the age group with which we interact on a daily basis in the school environment. So the implications for increased risk of infection are obvious, both from, in terms of people interacting with one another in the school environment. And that risk increases where persons are not vaccinated, either students or teachers. The primary school children can't be vaccinated at all.
Redmond said the union and the Ministry of Education have to meet as soon as possible to strategize on the best way forward. Meantime, BUT President Pedro Shepherd suggested that school might not reopen next month as scheduled due to the number of school buildings being deployed as isolation centers.
We know that there are schools that are being used as isolation centers, so again, we are of the view that school might not even start on the 20th, but nobody is saying what is going to happen as far as school, the commencement of school. So we are seeing pictures of schools with beds in their auditoriums or halls or whatever in preparation for any outbreak or whatever, but we still have to wait and see what is the ministry's position in terms of the start of the school term and whether face-to-face will still be a practical thing or that it will be online.
Opposition leader Bishop Joseph Atherley believes the government's downplaying of the prevalence of the Delta variant in Barbados is to blame for the substantial increase in cases. In recent days, there has been a spike in the numbers, with 92 positive COVID-19 cases recorded in a single day.
The government was too slow to acknowledge the presence of the Delta variant here in Barbados, and I said then it probably was understandable that you didn't want to cause alarm. But I think the other side of the issue takes on a greater importance, and that people need to be informed, because it is as people are informed and aware that they're likely to change behavior. I think we were too slow in recognizing the presence of the Delta variant, and we were also, by some of what was said by government spokespersons, we were also minimizing the significance of the presence of that variant. The Prime Minister herself said, it doesn't matter what variant you have, observe the protocols and you're fine. But we have known from then and still approving now that that was not a valid statement to make, a prudent statement to make, because the Delta variant is far more contagious and infectious, spreads far more easily, and we're now facing down that.
The opposition leader, however, is hopeful that the increased numbers would not overrun the island's healthcare system.
My fear is the challenge which will be presented to the system to do contact tracing as vibrantly and as effectively as possible, and to respond to the increasing spikes in cases. I see government is now opening a couple of other schools and making arrangements for hotel capacity to accommodate those who need to be quarantined or isolated. I understand that. And I hope that the numbers do not become such that the system is overwhelmed. But there has always been a concern of mine that if you don't speak to who comes into Barbados, and if you do not properly acknowledge the presence of the more contagious variant, the Delta variant, and people continue their behavior with a sense of complacency or that we were past the worst, we would come to this.
A much larger number of Barbadians must receive their first and second doses of COVID-19 vaccines before the Ministry of Health even contemplates giving booster shots to fully vaccinated people. That's according to Chief Medical Officer Dr. Kenneth George. The US and the UK are moving towards administering booster shots to help in the fight against the virus. But Dr. George tells Barbados Today not enough people are fully vaccinated in Barbados as yet to consider giving booster shots.
From a public health point of view, the position of the Ministry of Health is to make sure that every Barbadian is given the opportunity to be vaccinated with 2 doses, either Sinopharm, Pfizer, or AstraZeneca. That is the first public health good guidance. The issue of boosters, we are aware of in the Ministry of Health. It makes no sense looking at boosters when we have so much more of our population to be vaccinated. Please recall that vaccines are not in tremendous supply. We have told the media that we have made several efforts on the international market to get vaccines.
Dr. George further explained that larger countries like the UK and the US were in a better position to provide booster shots to their citizens because of the large supply of vaccines they were able to obtain.
I wouldn't like the issues of boosters to get ahead of ourselves until we have more of our population vaccinated with at least 2 doses. Boosters is like icing on the cake, and the challenge is that first world countries are able to use boosters in their population because they have an excess vaccine supply. But with respect to Barbados, I wouldn't like us to go down this route, not just yet. When we have persons outside there who are still to be vaccinated.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, Guyana's health minister is of the view that the Delta variant is responsible for the increased number of cases being recorded in the country. More in this report from News Source, Guyana.
The number of coronavirus cases continue to rise across the country, with the health ministry reporting today that there are more than 1,900 active cases nationwide, with the city of Georgetown and its immediate environs accounting for over 400 of those active cases. The Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, today said the situation remains worrying. While the government has not dispatched any samples for testing for the Delta variant of the virus, Dr. Anthony is convinced that the fast-spreading variant may be what is responsible for the current spike in new cases.
In and around Georgetown, we now have 409 cases. That's quite a lot. And when you disaggregate it, you see places like Campbellville having about 37 cases, Sophia 37 cases, Kitty 29 cases, but almost every ward in Georgetown we have cases that are active. So, if people are not going to adhere to the measures, we are going to see a significant increase in these cases.
In other parts of Region 4, the minister named Mahaika, Enmore, Diamond and Grove as other hotspots, with the Diamond and Grove area on the east bank of the Marara having more than 100 active cases. A number of West Marara and Essequibo villages are also seeing a significant increase in new cases of the virus. The health ministry has also seen a rise in new cases in parts of Berbice and Bartica.
And finally, The U.S. military has completed its withdrawal from Afghanistan after 2 decades of war. More from Reuters TV.
The United States withdrew its last forces from Afghanistan Monday, the Pentagon said, after a chaotic evacuation of thousands of Americans and Afghan allies, ending U.S. involvement there after 20 years of conflict. The operation came to an end before the Tuesday deadline set by President Joe Biden, who has drawn heavy criticism from both Democrats and Republicans for the handling of Afghanistan since the Taliban made rapid advances and took over Kabul earlier this month. General Frank McKenzie, commander of the U.S. Central Command, said at a Pentagon briefing that the chief U.S. diplomat in Afghanistan, Ross Wilson, was on the last flight out.
Every single U.S. service member is now out of Afghanistan. I can say that with 100% certainty.
Failing to anticipate the Taliban would so quickly conquer the country, Washington and its NATO allies were forced into a hasty exit. They leave behind thousands of Afghans who helped Western countries and might have qualified for evacuation. General McKenzie said the final flights did not include some dozens of Americans who could not get to the airport.
Look, there's a lot of heartbreak associated with this departure. We did not get everybody out that we wanted to get out. But I think if we'd stayed another 10 days, we wouldn't have gotten everybody out that we wanted to get out.
More than 122,000 people have been airlifted out of Kabul since August 14th, the day before the Taliban regained control of the country 2 decades after being removed from power by the U.S.-led invasion in 2001.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.